All right. Hi, team. Sorry I can't be there in person today, but I am going to train on, uh, how to move the sale forward on the listing side and how to work through those emotions, really bringing facts into play, but also being empathetic to what all parties are going through during a really stressful period in your life. This isn't an easy thing to do. Many cases we're dealing with, a lot of feelings and a lot of emotions that come up when you're selling a family home or a home that maybe a loved one lived in or a property that has a lot of sentimental value to somebody. So managing through that is really important and being aware of it. Emotion doesn't sell homes, leadership does. So you want to be a leader, and I've said this many times before, and it's even just in other transactions, following up isn't annoying, it's being a leader. So be a leader throughout the transaction. And when you stop taking the role of being a leader, that's when things go a little sideways. So, it's not just about a house, it's about helping people make some of the biggest emotional decisions of their lives. Our job isn't just about negotiating contracts, our job is leading people through that uncertainty. So every transaction has two stories to it. So you've got the facts, so price, inspection, financing, appraisal, timeline, and the market conditions. And then you've got the emotions that come along with it. So fear, pride, anxiety, grief, anger, ego. And most deals aren't going to die because, most deals are going to die because those emotional problems aren't being addressed. So that's typically when deals go a little bit sideways because we're not managing our clients through that, or maybe even the other agent through that. So you kind of run this emotional cycle as you're selling. So every seller is going to go through this. You don't want to be surprised by it. You want to plan for it. So there's the excitement piece of it. There's the hope. There's the stress. There could be some defensiveness that comes in. What if I start getting negative feedback about my home? Then there's the negotiation part. Doubt could start playing into it. Like, maybe I shouldn't be selling. What was I thinking? Ultimately, you're going to get to a place of acceptance. And then ultimately also that place of relief. Like, oh, we did it. We're here. We're done. When sellers are saying some key things that we hear a lot, there's underlying meaning behind them. So when you hear, well, we aren't lowering the price anymore, or, we don't really have to sell, they're starting to wonder if they perhaps made a mistake. Maybe I made a mistake and maybe I really shouldn't be doing this. When a seller says, let's wait, they're saying, I don't know what to do. And that's a you problem. That means you haven't done a good job of explaining what the next step should be and what they should be doing next. And then let's say they say, I know our home is worth more. What that means is they are emotionally attached to what this house means to them. So making sure that you do a good job of telling them, I know that it can be frustrating when you feel like, gosh, people aren't understanding what really this home is worth, but the market and the buyers ultimately dictate what a home is worth. So they're arguing about what that price represents to them. So facts versus feelings. We definitely acknowledge feelings, but we make decisions using facts, and information and facts are power. So a feeling of, I feel like our home is worth more than that. Well, great. But buyers are the ones that determine value, and it doesn't matter what you or I think or feel. And as you deliver that type of message, you have to be very gentle in how you say it. So yeah, I feel like our home is worth more than that. Well, I understand that you feel like that, and I know it can be really frustrating. Right now, the market's just telling us that buyers are feeling a different way, and this offer that we have in hand is the one offer that we've received, and we can do our best to try to negotiate up, but that's just where the market's at today. What would you like me to do? The inspection is ridiculous. Well, we know that every home is going to have issues. Very rarely have I ever seen somebody just say, oh, we're not going to ask for anything. I think I've had it happen 2 times. So we are always going to see a buyer come back and ask for something, and they're usually going to ask for more than what they expect to get. So my job is to reduce the ridiculous with facts and information. So don't get upset yet, because my job is here to help navigate through this. We don't have to do everything on the list. Let's address the things that are really health and safety related, and I will help you walk through that. Also, level setting to expect those types of requests during the inspection period also helps when you get to this point. We'll just wait for another buyer. Well, days on market matter. So if you are working with an offer that is legit, you want to make sure that the seller understands that you're not going to be able to recreate that 30 days down the road. You're better to work with the bird in hand. Don't let that one get away, and really understand the market. If you don't have any more showings, you don't have any other plans to get an offer at this point, make sure that they understand what happens and what clearly what their options are, but what would potentially happen in the future without accepting this offer and additional days on the market. They could end up with less. Wow, they're really insulting us with this offer. Well, that feeling of being insulted, that's not intentional. Buyers are not intentionally trying to make sellers feel insulted. They're negotiating. It's not personal. It's a business transaction. But remember, there's a lot of feelings tied up into somebody's home. It can feel like their identity. And when somebody comes in with a value under where they feel it should be, it's insulting to them. So helping them understand that it's not a personal, they're not trying to be insulting, is key in keeping a calm head and continuing to move the transaction forward. The agent's job is not to convince, to argue, or to win. The agent's job is actually lower emotion, increase that clarity, present the options, and help your clients make informed decisions. You're not there to try to win. As much as you think that should ultimately be the right thing, you need to listen to your clients and understand what they want. Sometimes I have to check myself, because I know that I can go back and I could ask one more time. And I just had this happen where it's like, are you sure you don't want me to go back? And I could ask for XYZ, but my buyers were done. They didn't want me to do it anymore. And it was hard. It was really hard to just stop there. But I needed to understand what my buyers were requesting of me was just to be done and move forward. And I presented them options. I still gave them the choice, but ultimately they're the ones that are going to make the ultimate decisions. And I don't want to feel pushy. I don't want them to feel like I wasn't listening to them. And ultimately they're happy. So being calm is also contagious. So, you want to make sure that in a place where the emotions are not high, that you've got clarity in everything that you're explaining to your clients, and you're not trying to convince them of everything. You're just laying out the facts. Again, I'm going to lay out the facts. I'm going to lay out your options. I'm also going to tell you what I think is the best option, but ultimately it's going to be your decision. And don't get caught up in other agents' emotions. So when you work with difficult agents, perhaps the other agent is rude, just stay calm. You're the professional. You're the leader. You might have to lead this agent through the transaction because they don't know how to handle it. Having delayed responses, ensure that you're just communicating those deadlines clearly. You might also have to get somebody else involved if deadlines are being missed. And, including, maybe the broker if you are not getting a response back. You have to do what's right for your client. If the other agent is becoming defensive, just go back to the facts. Keep it about the facts. Don't make it personal. Keep it about the facts. Go back to the contract. Go back to the contractual language. If other agents are making personal comments, never make it personal back. It doesn't work. It doesn't solve anything, and it doesn't help your clients. Let's say you've got an inspection negotiation going on. Then the seller's like, that buyer's crazy. I don't know what games they're playing. I'm not doing anything. And instead of saying, because perhaps these are pretty reasonable requests, don't argue with your seller. Don't say, they're not. You say, this is leading. Instead of arguing or trying to be right, say, I really understand why that's feeling frustrating, because I get it. It doesn't feel good to have somebody come back and ask for all these things. Now, my job is to go back and look at what's reasonable. And if you remember, we talked about that would be something I would do. I would go through the inspection request and I would say what's reasonable, what's not. What does affect us from a safety or a health standpoint, and what will we have to disclose in the future that you're better off taking care of now? And really, every inspection is going to uncover something. And my job is to uncover what is the bare minimum, honestly, that we could do for the buyers that is going to address what they really care about. And typically what I also see is that people always ask for more than what they're expecting to be done. So it's okay. Let me go back and work on this and understand, here's the things that I think would be a reasonable response back, and we'll go from there. Let's say you're working with a difficult agent, and the buyer's agent, you don't even feel like they're bringing things back to the buyer and they're just refusing to cooperate. Instead of this, oh my God, this agent is awful, or even don't ever say anything to your sellers either. Don't talk negatively about the other buyers or the buyer's agent, because that is a recipe for disaster. So now you're including them in how you're feeling and your emotions, and you're not doing your job. That is just a recipe for disaster. Do not do that. Respond with, here's what my buyer and sellers need to move forward. We are trying to get to closing. What is your buyer or seller willing to do? Get to the point. If you remind them that we're all trying to do the same thing, we may have different goals of what we're trying to achieve for each of our clients, but we do ultimately want to get to the finish line. Always return to timelines. Timing is of the essence, and remind your other counterpart of that. Remind them what is in the contract and what has already been agreed upon, and tie it back to the facts, the contract, and the truth of every situation. 3 questions I like to ask are, number 1, what's the outcome that we are trying to achieve? Are we at the point where, right now, we're trying to get an offer accepted? That's the outcome I'm trying to work on. Are we trying to get through inspection? Let's focus on getting through inspection. Are we trying to get to closing? Let's focus on getting to closing. If you start worrying about different aspects of the transaction before you've even gotten there, and you have your sellers all worrying about it, right now, we're trying to get through stage 1. Number 2, what decision gets us closer to closing while also protecting my client's interest in the best way possible? Always, always have your client's best interest in mind. It doesn't matter what you want. And if it ultimately comes down to actually getting to closing isn't in my client's best interest, you should also know when that may be the case. Number 3, will this even matter after closing? Do I also have a clear understanding of what my buyer or seller's bottom line is? What is their threshold, and what is their willingness to walk away? Really understanding, are we at the point where we're arguing about a lawnmower? Because I don't want to be arguing about a lawnmower, but are you willing to walk away over a lawnmower? Those types of things, just to get clarity on, and also to remind them that in the scheme of things, will this matter after closing? Will you look back and be like, it's fine, I don't really care that they ended up, with the couch downstairs and I didn't really want to sell it, whatever that may be. Usually the answer is no, that it's not going to matter after closing, and that helps kind of reframe and change everything. What a great agent will say instead of "you're wrong" is "help me understand." What a great agent will say instead of "you need to" are, "well, here are your options," and do a really good job of explaining what those options are and what the potential outcome of those options could be. Instead of saying that won't work, say, well, here's what the market is telling us. Instead of they're being unreasonable, say, let's focus on what is going to get us to the closing table. And again, the question that you want to get back to is, does this help us get to closing? If yes, move it forward. If it doesn't, let it go. So if you focus on being right versus moving the deal forward, you're going to lose momentum, and it's not worth it. Make sure you're continuing to ask yourself, am I more worried about being right? And is that driving my decision making? Or am I worried about what's best for my client and ultimately getting them to the closing table? Being calm in the chaos. So people are not going to remember every conversation. They remember how you made them feel. So you want to work with somebody that is confident. You want to work with somebody that is calm. You want to work with someone that tells you the truth. And you want to work with someone who keeps moving you forward. That's who I want to work with. So, and our job it's not just selling homes. We help people transition from one chapter of life to another. Every time we replace emotion with clarity, we create that confidence for our clients. So, and confident is how leaders behave. And leaders close homes.